My 500-acre ranch, tucked deep in the heart of the mountains, is more than just land. It's my sanctuary, my fortress, my legacy. This rugged, untamed expanse, far from the hum of towns or the chatter of neighbors, has been in my family for generations, each acre etched with history and guarded by ironclad deeds. Out here, miles from civilization, the air is crisp, the silence is sacred, and the boundaries are crystal clear. I've always known this place was special, a haven where I call the shots, free from meddling outsiders. But not everyone respects that freedom. When Kieran, the self-proclaimed queen of the local HOA, decided she could waltz onto my property like she owned it, she learned a lesson that still echoes through the valley, and I caught it all from my YouTube channel, Midnight. It all kicked off on a sunny afternoon, the kind where the sky stretches endlessly blue and the cattle graze lazily under the watchful eye of the mountains. I was out checking fences, the rhythm of the work second nature, wire cutters in hand, the scent of pine and dust in the air. My phone buzzed, pulling me from the task. A notification from my security system flashed across the screen, and I tapped into the live feed. There, rolling up my private ranch road like she was on a Sunday drive, was Karen's shiny SUV, gleaming like a trophy she didn't earn. She wasn't alone. Other HOA board members sat with her, their faces smug, expecting my security gate to swing open like the gates of their gated community. They'd heard about the gate, my new pride and joy, and apparently decided it was their business. That gate wasn't just a barrier, it was a statement. Biometric scanners, top-tier cameras, the works designed to keep my remote paradise secure, especially when the nearest neighbor is 5 miles away and privacy is non-negotiable. I smirked, leaning against a fence post, and tapped the screen to keep the gate locked tight. Let's see how this plays out, I thought, already imagining how I'd break it down for my MidnightTales subscribers. The feed showed Karen's SUV idling, her face twisting as she realized the gate wasn't budging. She climbed out, her heels crunching on the gravel, and started hammering on the gate like it owed her money. "This is a public road," she shouted into the intercom, her voice sharp enough to spook the cattle. "Open it right now." I strolled closer, phone in hand, and hit the speaker button. "Karen, this is private property," I said, calm as the breeze. "Your HOA doesn't run things here. Access denied." Her response was pure chaos, a high-pitched rant about her authority as HOA president, how I had to let her in, how she'd make me regret this. Her board members nodded along, egging her on like a bad high school clique. I didn't budge. I knew my rights, my deeds, my land. This wasn't their turf, and I wasn't about to let them pretend it was. Karen, red-faced and fuming, pulled out her phone and dialed 911. I raised an eyebrow, watching the feed as she paced, claiming I was illegally blocking a public road and tossing in some vague threat about using force if I didn't comply. Force on my land. I almost laughed. This was going to be gold for MidnightTales, a story of entitlement meeting its match. I stayed calm, double-checked the security footage to make sure it was recording, and waited. The mountains have a way of teaching patience, and I had plenty to spare. About 20 minutes later, the low rumble of engines cut through the quiet. 2 sheriff's deputies rolled up on the TVs, dust trailing behind them like a scene from a western. Karen was still at the gate, pacing like a caged animal, her voice a mix of indignation and desperation as she pointed at the gate and then at me, emerging from the ranch to meet them. The deputies, weathered guys who looked like they'd seen their share of disputes, dismounted and took a slow look around. Karen launched into her spiel how I was breaking the law, how the HOA had rights to this road, how I was some kind of renegade blocking public access. I let her talk, standing there with my arms crossed, the sun warm on my back. When she finally ran out of steam, I stepped forward. "Gentlemen," I said, nodding to the deputies, "this is private property. That gate's fully permitted, installed legally, and this road leads only to my ranch. The HOA has no easement, no jurisdiction, nothing. I've got the deeds and survey maps to prove it." I pulled up the documents on my phone, copies I'd emailed the sheriff's department weeks earlier, just in case something like this happened. One deputy, a guy with a salt and pepper mustache, took my phone and scrolled through the maps, his partner cross-referencing them on a tablet. Karen stood there, arms folded, glaring like she could will the law to bend her way. The deputy with the mustache looked up, his eyes steady. "Ma'am," he said to Karen, "this road's private. It leads straight to Mr. Thompson's property. Nowhere else. The HOA's got no claim here." Karen's jaw dropped, her face cycling through shock, anger, and something like betrayal. "But we maintain this road," she sputtered. The deputy's partner, younger, and trying not to grin, shook his head. "Maintenance doesn't mean ownership, ma'am. Doesn't give you access rights either." The air went still. Karen's board members shuffled awkwardly, their earlier bravado gone. I could have pushed it, could have gloated, but that's not my style. I just wanted them gone. "Deputies," I said, "mind sticking around until they leave, just to keep things civil?" They nodded, and I caught the younger one hiding a smirk. Karen, deflated, but still muttering about lawsuits and her rights, climbed back into her SUV with her posse and peeled out. gravel flying. I watched them disappear down the road, the gate standing firm behind them. Later, I uploaded a quick recap to MidnightTales, teasing the full story to come. The comments blew up. My subscribers love a good tale of standing your ground. A few days later, a letter arrived from the HOA's attorney. Polished, formal, and dripping with backpedaling, it retracted any claim to my ranch or its road and promised to respect my boundaries. Word around the valley was Karen resigned as HOA president not long after, citing personal reasons. A neighbor, who'd been at the HOA meeting where she tried to save face, told me she'd been humiliated. Her authority shredded when the board saw the legal documents proving she had no leg to stand on. Apparently, she'd lost all support, her reign over the HOA crumbling like a bad bluff in a poker game. I didn't care much for the gossip, but I did post a follow-up on MidnightTales, sharing the letter redacted, of course, and giving my viewers the juicy details. The video racked up views, with fans calling it the ultimate takedown of HOA overreach. Owning a place like this, so far from the world's noise, is a gift and a duty. The land doesn't just belong to me, I belong to it. Every fence post, every rocky trail, every sunrise over the peaks it's mine to protect. Karen thought she could steamroll me with her title and her temper, but she didn't count on someone who knows their rights and isn't afraid to stand firm. I didn't yell, didn't threaten, didn't need to. I had the truth deeds permits, maps, and that was enough. Out here, power without knowledge is a paper tiger, and Karen learned that the hard way. My ranch is my fortress, and no HOA president, no matter how loud they scream, is getting through my gate unless I say so. That showdown became one of my most popular stories on MidnightTales, and I still get messages from viewers asking for more details or sharing their own battles with overzealous HOAs. It's a reminder that freedom comes with responsibility to know your land, your rights, and to defend them without flinching. The mountains don't bend, and neither do I every now and then. I check the security feed half expecting to see another SUV testing its luck, but the gate holds strong, the ranch stays wild, and MidnightTales keeps growing, one story at a time.